Hi, we're starting in around 15 minutes. Hi everyone, Kaos Nova here, and we're going to start talking about what's the difference between the different media forms of Battle Angel Alita. This won't be too long a presentation, but it will be something for the meantime, and hopefully it gets some thought going about how the different media adaptations are a bit different. So to start this out, there is a video game called GUNNM Martian Memory, and we're just going to talk about some basic differences between that and the manga. So one part is that there's only the Imaginos. There's only an Imaginos body that gets modified, but it's still the same one. So I call it Imaginos 1.5 in the video game. As you can see, there's this orange, purple body with orange jacket. Has nanotech regeneration like the regular Imaginos and Berserker bodies do, but it also has storage compartments in the body, so you can store things. It's uses a video game mechanic to explain her inventory size. So unlike the manga, there isn't that many different bodies Alita uses. So Ouroboros works differently in the video game. Okay, so different outfit. That kind of wears this kimono outfit in this one. It's also Virtual Hugo and one of the other supporting characters in the video game version of the Ouroboros program. Virtual world made by Destiny Nova. Ito, Zapan, Makaku, Jashigun, Hugo, Gonzu, Walsh. Kinuba as well. So you see the Black Cat occasionally at times, and it transforms into Chaos because that's his Chaos, because the Black Cat is the avatar of Chaos in the program. It's same factions in the Zot, same planets. There's also a ship that takes Alita to Mars called the Leviathan, and you have a stowaway part in that game. Similar antagonist to the most of the game when it comes to Earth. When it comes to space, that it gets different. You have General Zuo or General Zero, depending on translation. Chomkin is an official Jeru, and he gets a clone berserker body. Destiny Nova is an overarching, arguably the main overarching villain of the whole thing. I mean, he's around throughout the whole time. But you have the other usual ones. Um, there's no Erica Walt in the game, but there's General Zero, and General Zero, as I'm going to point out, you see there's something called a mass tumor, where it's this cancer that looks like a face coming out the guy's arm. It's way less disturbing than what you get in Mars Chronicle manga, but both Alita and Zero came from that same mass tumor concept. There's the golden looking sword. It's somewhat similar. The Alita's holding looks somewhat similar to the blade or Damascus blade that you see in the film. Um, However, this special sword is Martian origin, as is the Berserker body. Nanites were part of how they terraformed Mars, converted the materials on Mars. Just getting oxygen in the air, getting water on Mars. It's a Martian war sword in GUNNM Martian Memory. And in the 1998 game, you can clone Berserker bodies using the nanite Berserker cells. And also, again, both Alita and Zero came from these so-called masked tumor cloning techniques. So a little bit more there, and so yeah, that's a big thing for GUNNM Martian Memory, is the fact that the arch nemesis is a similar origin, just like she is, but they both turn out differently. So to get on with this, on this whole idea of certain technologies coming from Mars and weapons coming from Mars, and that appears to be a thing that came from the game back, because this game was back in 1988, way before GUNNM Martian Memory happened. So now we've gotten that part, I'm going to go talk a little bit about the film, because that's a little bit bigger here. So the film is also quite different from the manga as well. So there's some concepts you also see in the film that you saw in the video game, some you do not. So Iron City is usually referred to as a scrapyard in the film. Iron City was from the animated film from 1993, 1994. And there's a city, the junkyard, much is basically the same, although not much is shown yet about what's outside. And to be fair, that isn't until later that you saw what's outside the city. So also, as we get a little farther, there's not just Iron City, but there's Destiny Nova really changed a lot from what you see in the manga. In the manga, he's always been in exile. Not only is he always in exile, but he has very different views, and a lot of that comes from him being exiled. Okay, the film implies that he threw out Ito's family for having genetic impurity in their daughter, but in the manga, he is the father of an actual mutant with superpowers. So I'm just saying, and that's part of the fact that he hasn't been banished yet. There is a brief little interview with Laeta Kalogridis that shows that, hey, yeah, I want to mention Destiny Nova's kid. It's just interesting how would that play out? How would it play out? Because he's not yet in that state of being in exile, and being in exile is how Destiny Nova came to not care about how Zalem lived. And the guy is a monster too. His children, or his child, is just his tool for his own anarchistic scheme. Even more so is that Destiny Nova is the only case of a Zalemite ever being known to naturally reproduce. So Yeah, if he was still Zom, how would that happen? The fall is very different. The fall implies at least hundreds of years ago that Mars got devastated completely. Very completely. At least what you see in the fall. But then again, there's always the chance of some kind of propaganda going on. So I don't know. Terraforming Wars is the conflict, or the fall in the case of the film, is the conflict in which Alita ended up having her side lose, and she was thrown down to Earth in the garbage heap. Hello there, Creek. If you want to join, that's fine. So, getting to the fall or terraforming wars, there's quite a bit of difference. There's also the implication that biological weapons were involved in the fall. Not necessarily in the manga; it's a little more complex. But the idea is the same in both, that you were trying to break apart and make the space elevator or Zolom drop from Jero, the connective up above. So, bam, similar. Although it's hard in this case because you have Destiny Nova, and that little grin he gives at the end of the film makes it almost imply that he was the one who dumped her, not the more complex case of the mistress leader of the Solar Union doing it. So it gets even more complicated. More complicated trying to explain the backstory that the film has set up, because it's obviously a different kind of interpretation, a different kind of angle. Now to move on to the next one, there will be one more part about the film that I'm going to talk about. So supporting characters are quite different in the film. Ito's different name. He's older too. Ito had no. The children was Destiny Nova, and obviously Destiny Nova is different in this case, because he was alive 300 years ago. That 300 years ago, that makes him around. That means he could be who knows how old. 350, 400, 500, who knows? Presumably, his age would come back to when nanotech existed in the Alita universe, but Vector doesn't know Destiny Nova in the original series. Never directly. Now, he is a bit different. It's his brother who died. In the supporting material, it says his father. Koyomi's different. Not much mentioned. She's not a baby. She's all around Hugo's age. And obviously, Grishka's different from Makaku. There's no origin really given for him other than he was a motor baller who supposedly was killed. And Shiruma is exclusive to the animated film, but she. Can you hear me?
You betcha.
All right. So we're on supporting characters here, but nice to have you on.
Good to be on.
But given the time frame, I could go over it again because it's.
No, you don't have to do that.
No, I don't really have to. But we're talking about support. It's the supporting characters part of this. So Ito obviously is older. Shirin's an animated character. Vector never knew Destiny Nova in the original material at all. Not in the game, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's like 3 or 4 versions of Nova in the game and in the manga, right? If you throw them together.
Actually, it's very simplified because there's Destiny Nova and they count it all as the same person. But yeah, there's in terms of the manga, there's X, Supernova, and there's Destiny Nova. I mean, unless you count the guy who got his head cut off as a separate person, I don't know. He didn't have his head,
who's
he
the
didn't have
guy?
his head in his gut, so maybe that's the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah, that's right. That was after the baby bomb thing. Yeah, who was the guy that liked Flan so much? Who was that guy?
That was X. X
That
was
was
the
X,
guy
okay.
who dressed up like a chef.
Okay, yeah.
But the thing is that it seems to imply in the film that Destiny Nova was the one who dumped Alita out, but maybe we just don't know anything about who's in the past. I don't know. He sure was gritting as if he realized, as if he figured out who it was.
Yeah.
I guess the funny part with Vector is that Vector didn't know Destiny Nova. He knew people close to him, not him.
Yeah, that's right.
And I haven't read too much of the novel, but wasn't Koyomi in the Iron City novel a little?
Yeah, she was, and she was very much like the Koyomi that was in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, she wasn't a baby or a teenager. Well, I guess she was a teenager in the movie, but in the movie she starts out as a teenager, but in the manga, she's a baby, and then eventually, as you get through, the original manga and go through the last order, she becomes more grown up. She becomes a teenager, perhaps even in her early 20s, maybe.
Yeah, I'd assume that she's somewhere in the age range of Hugo or Tanji.
Yeah.
What was the
and
other?
I think Tanji too. Tanji was in the anime, but he only had a very brief. His name was only mentioned once, but in the manga, he's not in the manga that I can remember.
He isn't named. There isn't anyone named, but Japan did cut the guy helping Hugo in half.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess he was then. Yeah.
Unnamed.
yeah, that's right.
We got into how I already mentioned Destiny Nova here, but a lot of stuff with him has changed because he's not exiled yet. So
yeah,
it would seem a lot of his ideas in the manga, because he just he didn't care anymore. He didn't care about the rules because he's not with them anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
So they seem to do that kind of with Ito instead.
Yeah.
I mean, Ito had the scar on his forehead, but he said he just kind of made it look like he didn't have the mark ever.
Yeah. It's a funny post I saw. I guess it was from that Cinema Wins. The guy that does that channel. He says toward the end, he was going over all the good things about Alita. And one of the little funny quips he did was that, when Ito was showing Alita, how he removed the mark on for his forehead, and the guy says, "Well, it's funny how easily that swastika came off of his forehead."
Oh, right. He was Hans Landa. That's Inglourious Bastards. That's another film I gotta say for those watching this, if you haven't. Because Hans Landa is a pretty intimidating villain in terms of how he stays calm.
Yeah, that's right.
The worst one is when he's visiting the farm, and then he knows that there's someone hiding under the floor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm surprised that swastika came out so easy or something. Is what
I'm surprised that it wasn't Waltz, that they didn't choose Christoph Waltz, but it works as it does.
Yeah, it does.
That Waltz wasn't Destiny Nova.
I think Waltz would have been a great Destiny Nova if they had picked him for that and picked somebody else for Ito,
Right.
But I think the movie worked better with Ito being the father figure as opposed to being a somewhat creepy guy.
They didn't really work it out. But I guess I forgot to mention the video game, though, that the father role is there too.
Yeah.
And I think it works because in a game, it's not the same as a movie. You're playing as the character, so it kind of helps you figure, okay, maybe Alita's sad because Destiny Nova, not Destiny Nova, but Ito, Daisuke Ito tells you good and important things. And
Yes.
he actually, you actually have that in the game. You have that kind of father-child relationship to Ito, so you kind of understand why she'd feel sad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that game's pretty cool. I got to install that thing on my other computer. I just hadn't gotten around to it, but I'd like to play that game. The English version, that is. I can't figure the Japanese out like you do.
It's just part of being instinctive, and
Yeah,
that kind of works when you program.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, and I'll have the link to the Laeta Kalogridis interview because that interview you guys did with her a while ago shows there's some awareness from the people making the film about the other supporting characters.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's just, and the other thing about Ito that they kind of put from Destiny Nova is that it's Destiny Nova who has the genetically impure child in the manga.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it did at the same time. It kind of worked in making Ito be an older person than see.
Yeah, I think so. I think if it had done it in the movie, it'd been, especially the way it starts out in the manga. And I think eventually in the manga, he's more the father figure. But initially, I don't know if he has like a crush on Alita or something after he finds her. I don't know.
I felt he did until but he wasn't going to try and compete with Hugo.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I think if they had done that in the movie, the creep factor would have been a little too high. They probably would have hurt the movie.
No, it would have. It would have.
Yeah. Yeah, and Christoph Waltz did a great job as the father figure too.
He definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you got Jackie Earl Haley up there. I mean, that guy, he is really good. He's a good actor. And that shot you got of him there, that was from Watchmen. He played Rorschach, so that's
that one. Yeah, Watchmen is a favorite comic book film of mine. Especially the director's cut. But I'll try talking about that in another later broadcast of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, my youngest stepson gave me he gave me that the graphic novel one time as a birthday present.
That's like, from what I remember, that's about 400 pages.
Yeah,
I own the digital of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 1.5 inches thick or something like that. That thing is.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a good read though.
All right. What else was I thinking of? Oh, I guess I know Shroom is originally animated, but it makes me wonder if there's any room for later characters because I don't know, they took her brain away. So they took Lou's brain away. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had characters in the movie that are not in the manga. I mean, they were, like Screwhead. Screwhead's not in the manga or in the movie.
Well, Screwhead's a slang though. It's for the barjack soldiers.
Yeah, that's right. So like
they're called
yeah.
socket soldiers, but Screwhead was the slang for them because they actually turn the head into the body like a screw.
Yeah, that's right. So, which is a weird concept, but they could bring Screwhead back. I think they could definitely do that.
I think so. She wasn't ground up in the junk disposal machine like her buddy was.
Yeah, like Stinger, he's definitely not coming back. Probably Kramaza's not coming back either, or say who's the one?
The guy who got his head punted off the track. I'm trying to remember that. I don't remember him.
Well, he could probably come back because he was still talking, but
Well, he was talking up until they hit his head and it flew right off.
Yeah, that's right. That might have killed him. That's right. But Kanuba also.
So what I'm reading from the manga is if you take the kilometers per hour, that puts it about the speed of NASCAR when these motorballers are going at their fastest. So from the game, it's like 195. When you take it in miles per hour, it's about 195, 196 miles per hour that they're moving down the track. So his head got hit by somebody moving over 100 miles per hour. I'm not saying that's impossible, but I'm just saying having your head get that hit so hard, that's going to send vibrations through your brain, even if it's intact.
Well, it's different than Alita, you know, when Alita, depending on which version you like, whether she gets thrown off Zalem or gets thrown off of Jeru, you know, her brain does survive, but she had a different kind of skull, I think, than the rest of them. You know, I mean, she had that kind of like that titanium nanotube composite skull with, you know, nanites in it and stuff to help protect her brain, you know. So, but the others, they don't have that, you know, they just got a.
That's true. But there was, I'm trying to look up the exact, I'll find the exact episode later, like superhero science, but it's saying you wouldn't want to have unbreakable bones because that would just allow you to have vibrations running through your body. So even if they don't break, you'll still die because your organs.
Yeah, that's right.
The shock.
Yeah. Because being thrown off of let's say it was off Zalem, you know, you'd be doing 120 miles an hour when you hit the ground, you know.
Right.
That would have been bad news, you know, and certainly even off of Jeru, you know, she would have gone through, you know, re-entry like a spacecraft, you know, which would have burned her up probably, maybe, you know, I don't know. Although
initially when you hit the atmosphere at thousands of miles per hour, yes, that's really hot. But actual meteorites, because they were doing this on Mythbusters actually after the initial atmosphere when it got hit. They actually said that The Simpsons, which has a The Simpsons had that meteorite joke when Bart Simpson picked up a meteorite and stuck it in his pocket. About how that's actually could be accurate because the meteorite is cooled within a couple of minutes of.
Yeah, that's right.
Of hitting the atmosphere.
Well, I think, you know, the construction of Alita's skull too would have probably protected her from the re-entry, you know, heat from the re-entry too. So, you know, yeah, her skull was quite unique, you know, as compared to the other cyborgs. So.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking a lot of characters are just going to have to be moved over to introduce new ones.
I think so. Well, they got plenty to choose from the manga because, you know, the anime is basically a done deal, you know, for the movie. They don't have any more anime. So now they could use the game, I guess, you know, but probably they'd have a lot more information from the manga than they do. And they could adapt it, you know, or change it somewhat, kind of like they did in the movie. So, you know.
I'm still thinking of Ed, if they could ask Woody Harrelson to be Ed.
Yeah, he would be a good Ed, wouldn't he? Yeah, he definitely would be a good Ed, I think.
That or who else was I thinking of? Oh, I'm forgetting about who Ed's assistant is. Umba, yes, that's it.
Yeah. They got plenty to choose from, I think. I guess you're on Twitter, right? Yeah, you are on Twitter.
Yes,
Chaos.
I am.
I guess you saw that I tried to get into Troublemaker Studios and did not make it in. They wouldn't let me in, you know. So.
Oh well, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to get in really because it is a secured location. You can't just let anybody in there.
Well,
you know?
better to try and fail than never try at all.
Well, that's just it. I mean, my thought was the worst that can happen is they tell me no, you know, which is what they did. But the security guard, he was real nice. You know, he said, yeah, somebody will get back to you and stuff like that. you know, of course they haven't gotten back to me, but you know, I guess they got a lot on their plate, I suppose. So, but yeah, he was real nice though. I mean, you know, he even called back down on, because he wasn't actually in that gate up front. He was located back up near the lot, you know, and he could see I was out there, and he said, well, be careful out there because people are going home, you know. But it was about time for them to, you know, for quitting time, you know. And he said, we get hit by a car, you know. And I said, yeah, no problem. You know, I'm standing up here right next to the island, you know, so they wouldn't hit me, you know. So anyway, but it was still kind of interesting to see it because you could kind of see where the buildings were where they were doing some of it, you know,
Right.
but just from a long distance. But
Wow.
yeah, it's still pretty cool. I thought I wasn't upset at all, you know.
Wow. Well, that's a good experience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, even though I didn't get in, it was worth it, I think. You know, although who knows, they might get back to me eventually. You know, I haven't heard anything. I tried to get in touch with them prior to that. You know, I'd send them messages and left voicemail, and nobody called me back or sent me a message back. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe they just thought, well, it's just another fan. You know, we don't have to. We don't need to worry about it, stuff like that. You know, but.
Yeah. Wow. Nice to drop in. I'm finishing up, but hey, nice to have you on here today.
Oh yeah, good. It's good to be on, man. Yeah, I know. I promised 2 or 3 times to come on one, and I keep getting called up to do something else. You know, so
we're called first. It's all right.
Yeah, that's cool. So anyway, I'm glad to be on.
You have a good day. And
okay,
it's nice talking about what's the difference.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to be finishing it up. I'll have those things for my audience. I'll have things in the description. In the meantime, we'll finish off with some nice music at the end. You have a good night.
See ya.